Hello and welcome to Farm Connections. I'm Dan Hoffman, and today I will be joined by my co-host, Jennifer Smith.
Thank you, Dan.
Farm Business Management Instructor at Wanamingo. We're at the 2019 Riverland Community College Ag Summit. Today we'll visit with a series of knowledgeable guests, including Chief Economist for the American Petroleum Institute, Dr. Foreman, Commissioner for the Minnesota Department of Agriculture, Thom Petersen, and CEO of Alcorn Clean Fuel, Randal Doyal. It promises to be an informative show, so stick around for this episode of Farm Connections.
Welcome to Farm Connections with your host, Dan Hoffman.
Farm Connections made possible in part by
Alcorn Clean Fuel, a farmer-owned cooperative in Claremont, Minnesota for more than 20 years, producing ethanol, high-protein livestock feed, corn oil, and beverage-grade carbon dioxide for resale to benefit its members and their communities. Absolute Energy, a locally owned facility, produces 115 million gallons of ethanol annually, proudly supporting local economies in Iowa and Minnesota. Absolute Energy, adding value to the neighborhood.
Back in 1944, Sam Bauer had a vision to provide tires and heating oil to families. This second and third generation family-run business is still focused on commercial truck, retread tires, tires for your passenger vehicles, and farm equipment too.
Novel Energy Solutions, committed to working with farmers and landowners to deliver a new crop, electricity. More about income potential and lease agreements designed to be top performers at novelenergy.biz.
It's my pleasure to welcome all of you to our 5th Annual Agriculture Summit. And it's my distinct pleasure to serve as the president of Riverland. This is my 6th year at the college. And my background is very much agriculture. Well, the summit is part of our mission in one sense or the other. We focus on post-secondary education for students who are getting ready to graduate from high school so that they can set their pace, explore the careers and options that are available for them, and decide where to concentrate and go forward. We also attend to the needs of career changers, those who have perhaps finished their career in some form or the other and then want to change to adapt. In fact, some research shows that people will change careers these days 7 or 8 times in their lifetime. So as a comprehensive community college, we pride ourselves to being here to help those who want to change their careers, and we give them the tools that they need to do that. And then we know that businesses are a very good backbone of the economic vitality of our area. So we make ourselves available to help those businesses so that they can thrive. But we can't do all that just on our own. We do it by being partners. And you could see here in the audience are some of our very, very precious partners. So we thank you for being partners with us in fulfilling our mission. And thank you. Enjoy the whole day of the Ag Summit.
With me is our keynote speaker, Dr. Foreman from the American Petroleum Institute. Welcome, Dean.
Thank you, Dan.
Well, you flew in all the way from the East Coast. Hopefully that was a good experience.
It was a good flight and made possible again by oil and gas and everything that is important to agribusiness.
Well, speaking of energy, agriculture is a huge consumer of energy, but we also generate some. But tell us, what kind of trends are we looking at?
Well, month after month through this last year, we've seen record production. And it's only made possible by the infrastructure that we have in states like Minnesota, and it connects us from local to global community. All of these things, record production, the consumer benefits, we've cut basically prices in half from 2014, and we're seeing price volatility cut in half. For Minnesotans, this means savings of some $2.6 billion, and it could have been more. So this is the story that we'd like to carry. We want to talk to agribusiness about how we're aligned in a lot of these areas.
Dean, we have wonderful people here, but sometimes our climate's a little harsh. We're friends of energy, and we know we need BTUs and therms. I like the fact that you're trying to give us responsible as well as reliable, affordable fuel. What kinds of things are on the horizon looking out 3 to 5 years?
Well, over the next several years, politics aside, we face, as energy and agribusiness, similar challenges. And as we're looking at keeping this energy revolution going that's produced the benefits that I just referred to, the only way that happens is if we continue to build infrastructure, export, find new markets, and work together holistically.
How do we work with sometimes uncertain populace or voter policymakers? The same people that use energy sometimes make it difficult to deliver energy. How do we work with them?
Well, the first is to find common ground and talk about how it is that we're all as consumers benefiting. And to the extent that we can align those interests and build off of the common ground, that helps. Now, predictable policies, both for agribusiness and for energy, are really important to bringing this into the next decade. If we're going to continue to grow, we need to find that common ground, that common interest, and have people understand exactly how intertwined our economy is with agribusiness and with energy in general.
Minimal disruption is best.
Minimal disruption and predictability and the ability to plan for the long term. Those are all critically important in both our industries.
We've got a lot counting on it. We need agriculture, we need energy. Thanks for the work you do.
Thank you, Dan. Thanks for having me.
Joining me now is Trish Harren and Tim Gabrielson from Mower County, our county administrator and commissioner. Thank you. So welcome. And first, tell us what you presented today at the Ag Summit.
Well, today we were asked to speak on the impact of wind on Mower County. And so we really spoke to it from a very personal level of how wind impacts each and every person who lives in this county. And it comes through the lens of production tax. So each year in Mower County, we bring in close to $2 million in wind production tax that helps buy down our local levy. So it's equivalent to what we bring in from county program aid each year. And so we spoke really specifically to the number of wind farms and wind turbines in Mower County and the impact that that has on our constituents who live here.
Okay, and you talked about 2007 is what started everything with the renewable energy standards, right?
Yes. So we had some monumental legislation passed that came with it one could call it a mandate or a standard, which was 25 by 2025, which was that 25% of our renewable of our electricity would come from renewable energy by 2025. And so at the time, it seemed like a really monumental, almost impossible goal to reach. And yet here we are in 2019, and that goal has already been reached. And wind has had a huge part to play in that. Currently, of that 25% of energy that comes from renewables, 18% comes from wind.
Excellent. So those are some successes we've had with wind. Is there some other successes we've had with our wind energy in Mower County?
Well, I think the other thing that we have done with the wind production tax that comes in is we've used it to help fill gaps in our budget. We don't want to become dependent upon the production tax to essentially replace program aid or replace our local levy, just in case something would happen legislatively and that income would go away. So what we have begun to do is use it for some special projects. And so we are currently investing it into our infrastructure, into roads and bridges. So there is a national transportation crisis that's been going on and a state transportation funding crisis. And so one of the ways that Mower County is addressing that is through taking some of our production tax revenue and applying it to building roads.
Okay.
It isn't just the county that benefits from this production tax, it's also our townships. So of the total production tax that comes from wind energy, 80% of it goes to the county, but 20% goes to the townships where the wind is generated. And so it's also a benefit to the townships that are hosting wind farms in their communities.
Sure.
Okay, great. So, and where does Mower County rank in the amount of income generated from the wind turbines?
Number one.
Number one. So Mower County, we're a very windy county, and we rank number one in terms of wind production as well as tax benefit that comes to the county. Okay. So, and by a significant amount. So,
we've got some counties out to the west that are nipping at our heels. So with new projects coming in, because they want to knock us out of that number one spot. But
okay, excellent. Well, that's great. So is there any other challenges or things coming up with the wind energy for the area or the state that you'd like to share?
I don't know if there are challenges. I think it looks like our state is going to continue down the renewable path, and we're hearing rumors that instead of just 25 by 2025, we now maybe want 50% renewable energy in the production of electricity by 2050. So I imagine that we will see more and more wind farm development, because it continues to be the cheapest and the quickest way to get into that renewable market and to really meet the standards that are out there.
Okay, well, great. Thank you for coming today and presenting. It's great to meet both of you. So.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
With me is a newly appointed Commissioner of Agriculture, Thom Petersen. Thom, welcome to Farm Connections.
It's great to be here.
Well, you've had a whirlwind of a few weeks only, but you've been around the state and you've been doing a lot. Tell us about that new experience.
Yeah, it's really an honor to be chosen by Governor Walz to have this opportunity to work on behalf of our farmers and residents of Minnesota. And best part of my job is getting out. Like today we're in Austin. I'm going to be in Albert Lea this afternoon and back up in the valley next week, and really traveling the state and is really important. Governor Walz asked us to get outside of 494 Beltway at least once a week, and I do that every day, but I think it's really important and a great opportunity.
And you're doing a great job. I was impressed with the work I've seen so far, and there's a lot to do. What's the most crucial thing at this time?
You know, the most crucial thing for me is just trying to improve the lives of farmers. I think that, you know, there's no question that the bottom line for farmers right now has been struggling for many years. And so I think that's what is the ultimate goal, and it's in our mission at the Department of Agriculture, is to work to improve farmers' lives and the lives of Minnesotans, and also ensure a secure and safe food supply. So that's the top priority for me.
Well, when we spoke about you talking to the group at the Ag Summit, you quickly chose the topic of protecting agriculture, including health care. Why?
You know, healthcare is one of the costs that it's always been a common theme in my many years of working for Farmers Union. When I would go out to farmers, you know, I'd talk about ethanol or dairy or different things. Farmers would always say, can I talk to you about my healthcare situation? They'd say, my deductible is $10,000 or my annual premium, $25,000, $30,000. And you look at the average farm income this year is $27,000. How do you afford that? What are the choices do you make? And so really a concern, and I think it's something that we can do better as a government, we can improve on. And so I always have made healthcare a top priority, and Governor Walz has as well.
You know that we work very closely with the Department of Ag through the Farm Business Management Program. And there's a number of things like Rural Finance Authority that help. They're tools in the toolbox for our instructors and for the farmers. Can you shed any light on those programs?
Yeah, you know, and I always think, unfortunately, it's kind of a secret sometimes that we have the Rural Finance Authority within the Department of Agriculture. Encourage farmers that are looking for assistance or help or different loans. We have beginning farmer loan programs, farm opportunity loan programs, livestock equipment loans, loans to help you buy a farm. They partner with the local bank, which is very important. They have low interest rates. And I think that's just a tremendous opportunity. And then going hand in hand with the farm business management, I've always been a big believer in that. I see the bottom lines. I talk to the farmers when they talk about farm business management, what an important tool that is to their farm. And it's hard because you take time, it takes some money, but sometimes it's important to spend money to make money. And so I think that farmers see that opportunity and they can see the results.
Sometimes we think that it's difficult to reach out to our government officials, but I haven't noticed that in the Department of Ag. What's the best way for farmers or consumers or people interested in contacting you?
Yeah, I want to be very accessible. That's a top priority for me. I did that in my previous job. I always had a goal of having 5 farmers call me every day or email me or text me or whatever. And so I'm very accessible. My email address is on our website. My cell phone number is on our website. I get messages from farmers, even as commissioner, all the time. I always say the best time is in the morning before 8:30 or at night after 5 because my days are jam-packed. But that's how you get your best information. As hearing from farmers, I work very closely with the farm groups, but I really appreciate when a farmer takes time to call me or message me because I can get that firsthand account of what's going on, and so very important.
Well, you spoke of resetting with the farmers. Can you expand on that?
Yeah, I think the last couple of years have been challenging for farmers. A lot of different things that maybe at the end of the day weren't the worst situation, but we had the buffer that went on. We have a nitrogen rule. We had ditch mowing. All these different issues that were very high profile maybe just weren't handled the best. And so I think that one of the things Governor Walz has talked a lot about is resetting our relationship. So I'm working really hard to reset our relationship, like with the DNR, with the Board of Water and Soil Resources, with the PCA, Department of Revenue. All these things are really important to be an advocate for our farmers and our rural residents. And I really enjoy that camaraderie that I have with my fellow commissioners. And so that's what we're working on, and hopefully that improves our relationships with farmers.
Well said. Thanks for joining us
Thank
today.
you. I appreciate the opportunity.
I'm with Jerry Demmer, a Freeborn County corn and soybean farmer. And Jerry, you talked today at our Ag Summit. And what did you talk about today at our meeting?
Jennifer, I talked about the technology and the technology advances in the farming industry today. Also conservation tillage and how we are stewards of the farmers are the stewards of the land and protecting our groundwater supply and doing a better job of nutrient management to make ends meet in a tough economic environment such as we have today.
What are some of the technology pieces that you talked about?
Well, the most recent one is obviously the GPS technology that the planters can shut off automatically. Each row can shut off at the end of the field, saving on seed cost, and also on the sprayer does the same thing by sections, shuts off, and that just improves on the farmer's efficiency. The GPS satellite technology also has given us the yield mapping for corn and soybeans that we can utilize to better do nutrient management on our farms. So we can take the good yielding areas of our fields using that generated map off the combine and prescribe fertility to where it's needed in the poorer yielding areas, and the good yielding areas that don't need as much, we can slack off on. Better economics on the farm.
Okay. And does that improve the overall production and economic practices with the farm then, by using all the technology?
Yes, it does. It evens the field out, and what your hopes are is that that you'll generate better income off of that piece of property by reducing your fertilizer costs and increasing the yields. Nitrogen, for example, that we and I mentioned that's my speech today at the Ag Summit, was the nitrogen management that I use today. And we're getting down to 0.65 pounds of nitrogen per bushel of corn, applied 3 different times, once in the fall, spring apply, and then take leaf samples and variable rate the nitrogen while the crop is growing.
Okay, excellent. And then what are some of the conservation practices you said you talked about too that you use with the corn and soybean?
Oh, there's a number of them. The hot one now is strip till, and strip till is where you, in the fall of the year after harvest, clean that strip with a specific machine, a strip till machine, to make a black surface for the crop to be planted in the following year. Put that fertilizer right where it needs to be underneath that row for the next year. And that fertilizer would be variable rated as well. That saves on fall tillage and also saves on spring tillage, keeps the residue in place, improving your soil health and also wind erosion on that land. You know, we are really, it is so important that the farmers understand that we're using this soil for just a short period of time. And we need to make sure we protect that soil for the next generations to come, keep it in its place so they can utilize it to provide for their families and provide food, fuel, and fiber for a growing world.
Thanks for presenting today and sharing all the information. It's great to have you here.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Thanks.
Appreciate it.
With me is the Chief Executive Officer of Alcorn Clean Fuel, Randy Doyal. Randy, welcome to Farm Connections.
Morning, Dan.
You've got a big job and you've helped a lot of people in our area. Tell us about that.
Well, my job is really fairly simple. I get to run an ethanol plant, and I've got a great staff of people who make that happen. It's been a great career for me, Dan, and the best thing of all is that I get to continue to learn.
So some of the things happening today are talking about energy, and you're a big part of that. How do you play out in energy?
Well, we are an energy producer. The fun part is we're actually solar energy. The source that we use is solar energy collected by corn plants and stored in these wonderful batteries called corn kernels. And our job is to unlock that, free up some of that energy, turn it into liquid fuel that we can put in our cars, and concentrate up the feed value, the protein, and give that to livestock, and even capture some of the corn oil and use that to make biodiesel.
Well, and oftentimes we hear people say, why are you taking food out of production? But I think you just gave an answer to part of that cycle in feeding livestock with the dry distillers grains.
Correct. You know, we don't need more starch in our livestock diet, just like I don't need more starch in my diet. It's pretty obvious. But we do need more protein. So what we do is we step in that chain where the feed is going to the animal. We pull that starch off, turn it into fuel that we can use in our vehicles that burns much cleaner and has much higher octane, and concentrate up that protein portion, which is what we really need. And now we've reduced the amount of transportation required to get that to the market by 2/3. So we're saving energy to move the feed to market. We're saving energy, actually releasing energy that we can use in our vehicles. It's a wonderful business.
And why do we need clean renewable fuels?
Well, when I moved up here many years ago, the Twin Cities, when I would peek over the hill and could see the skyline of Minneapolis, it was pretty smoggy. Minnesota enacted a requirement to have an oxygenate, which is what ethanol is, to help that fuel burn more completely and take care of some of that pollution. Minnesota stayed in compliance with federal standards ever since. And we've seen the air get cleaner. Now when I top that hill, you get a great clear view of downtown Minneapolis, and I know that that's a part of the effect. That fuel is cleaner, it's much higher octane, so it's enabled our refiners to be able to do things they haven't been able to do before, and get additional value out of that barrel that they didn't get before. But it's also, probably the biggest impact is it's given a new market for our farmers. And that value of energy is coming back to the farm. Those dollars stay here in Minnesota rather than us sending them elsewhere to buy that energy.
Extremely important.
It really is.
Thank you for being part of agriculture, Randy.
Well, thank you, Dan.
Well, we cannot thank you enough. A lot of things have been going on since the beginning, so I want to wrap up by just saying thank you for being part of our 2019 Ag Summit. And outside is beautiful, it's sunny. We promise you have the same kind of weather next year, hopefully. Thank you and have a safe ride back home.
Well, that will about do it from here. I want to take a moment to say thank you to Dan for allowing me to co-host the show today. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you for doing it. You did a great job. We also need to say thank you to our guests for providing us their insights and information on ag, food, science, and energy. And thank you to the viewers at home for making Farm Connections a part of your day. From the Riverland Community College Ag Summit 2019, I'm Dan Hoffman, and this has been Farm Connections.